We've just passed 2 years of being open as an organization. And so I think we're at a really, really exciting time, moving beyond sort of startup mode to really scaling up our team and infrastructure to provide a cohesive suite of programs and grants that, again, meets organizations where they are while staying true to our mission of
Welcome to Natural Collisions, brought to you by Co.act Detroit. I'm your host and program coordinator at Co.act, Sharnae Sanders. Since 2019, we've shared a few things here and there, but today we're excited to tell you just about everything we've been up to for the last couple of years. This is our 2-year impact report.
They've been working on this platform, have different service providers, like an ecosystem of service providers for the nonprofit system.
Activate Fund.
The KIPD initiative, as we call it.
Revenue Accelerator.
The Nonprofit Fundamentals Program.
Bi-weekly meetings with the Co.act team.
Our nonprofit wellbeing series.
The Collaboration Pilot.
Fundraising and a crisis certificate.
Sort of on-demand virtual resource library.
Design storefront competition.
COVID response programming with those partners as well, from financial forecasting and scenario planning for organizations to
It's been a busy 2 years. When Co.act opened its doors in 2019, we thought we had a good general sense of where we were headed for the next few years.
We knew that we wanted to build a hub for nonprofits that was really focused on a place-based strategy that brought people together, that was really focused on amplifying best practices, and then also starting to build more connection in the ecosystem. And so that was the North Star that we were working towards.
That's Alondra Boger, Co.act's executive director. She'll be one of the main voices you hear as we explore the story and impact of Co.act. From the beginning, Alondra led our team toward that North Star she talked about. But none of us could have expected how much COVID would change our lives and our work. Indeed, the word pivot became the theme of 2020. We really had to rethink about what it meant to bring people together. Thankfully, working in the nonprofit sector, we are no strangers to being nimble.
I feel like we were created for a time like this. Because we are designed to be adaptable, to be flexible, we were able to pivot. And so that has meant pivoting our work, our workshops, our programs, our coaching, our grant programs into a virtual space.
2 years in, we're looking back on what we've done, how we've stretched, and we're celebrating the impact our work has made so far. And you're getting a bird's eye view and a front row seat. At Co.act, our mission in Southeast Michigan has remained the same: to accelerate transformational impact within nonprofit and community organizations through collaborative idea generation, cross-sector resources, and equitable access to world-class programming and learning opportunities. And the last 2 years showed us how important Co.act's specific take on that mission truly is, starting with our intention to center racial equity. Last year, with every tragedy facing Black and Indigenous people and people of color, we knew we needed to have dialogues, to talk to people, and to listen.
In partnership with the Urban Consulate, we launched a series of conversations particularly focused on racial equity, where we brought together local and national thought leaders in the space, particularly as we were addressing and grappling with the heightened awareness around racial violence and injustice in our community. We wanted to create a safe and brave space for candid dialogue around those issues.
And from dialoguing to doing, we leaned into our focus on supporting nonprofits with knowledge and resources.
Knowledge and resources as it relates to our work at Co.act Detroit, it is about creating equitable access to that knowledge and information so that everyone is able to connect to the things that they need. And also, lifting up and amplifying those resources and that great work that's being done both locally and nationally so that we can continue to expand our knowledge and use that to make social change in our community.
Expanding knowledge and resources can look so many different ways in this sector.
Not only has Co.act helped me build capacity for our organization with our board expectations and board deliverables and what things should look like for funding and the resources through the organizations there, but it's also helped us as far as what are the right things to do with our finances, about auditing, about building an infrastructure.
That's Vilma Overman, Executive Director of Operation Refuge and Inkster.
Operation Refuge can continue to grow and to evolve into something that is more than just feeding people, but we really become immersed in our community and we change and grow as our community changes and grows. So I'm very thankful for the actual skill sets that they offer nonprofit work.
And with the multi-pronged crisis that COVID brought us, we made a number of efforts to support co-activists and other nonprofits across Southeast Michigan.
We also built out our sort of on-demand virtual resource library, both through Co.act's website and then also in partnership with Michigan Nonprofit Association to offer a really robust COVID response webpage with toolkits and resources.
That's Kyla Carlson. She's the Director of Programs here at Co.act Detroit.
We did a lot of COVID response programming with those partners as well, from paycheck protection programming support to rethinking the nonprofit workplace, everything from physically, how do we reopen, how do we support staff to work remotely, to ethical data use and all kinds of topical issues that were really top of mind for nonprofit leaders over these past 18 months.
Despite having to rethink so much about what coming together and working together looks like during a global pandemic, we leaned into our commitment to collaboration and convening.
Collaboration and convening really gets to the heart of the matter of why Co.act exists. So collaboration, our tagline is to accelerate collaboration in nonprofits in Southeast Michigan's nonprofit ecosystem. And so for us, when we can leverage our knowledge, when we can leverage our resources, when we can leverage our networks, I would also say that we serve a unique role in bringing together cross-sector partners.
And last year, a group of nonprofit leaders formed a collective to do just that.
The Transforming Solidarity Collective is a collaborative effort that includes Co.act Detroit, Michigan Nonprofit Association, Community Development Advocates of Detroit, New Nonprofit Enterprises at Work, and Michigan Community Resources. In response to the COVID-19 crises, our 5 organizations came together to leverage our resources and relationships to better respond to the needs of nonprofit organizations.
Or as Donna Murray Brown of the Michigan Nonprofit Association puts it,
the purpose of us actually coming together, you're better and stronger together. So collectively, we can do more than we would be able to do individually.
At Co.act, we love doing what Alondra called getting to the heart of the matter. We do this through having dialogue, asking questions, trying new things. We do this through acceleration and incubation.
Acceleration and incubation, it's the commonality in our work around being willing to try new things, being willing to fail at them and learn from those lessons to refine the work that we do. When we talk about the changes that we're working to address in our community, we're talking about getting to the root cause of some of these challenges. And ultimately, we're talking about decades of impact. We don't have the same amount of time to course correct the things that we need in our community. It's needed now. And so we try to find ways to test approaches, test learnings to really be able to apply things quickly and get resources out into the community more quickly.
Getting resources out into the community to some may sound pretty straightforward. Nonprofits have a need, They ask or apply for funding and support, and foundations and donors donate to meet that need. But we all know it's not that simple. For one, we recognize that what nonprofits really need is oftentimes not what funders want to fund.
There's one truth that we always know is that it's very difficult for the nonprofits to raise money for anything to do with growing their leadership, capacity building, non-programs.
That's Rami Koshin, CEO at Gingras Global. It's a firm that supports impact investors and enterprises.
They might be able to raise money to help give some coats to the poor, but they don't have any discretionary money to pay the leadership staff. And so then everybody wonders, gosh, why isn't this nonprofit doing better? Well, nobody will allow money to go to that.
Enter our most expansive pilot program to date, the Activate Fund. It's a $1.5 million grant fund administered by Co.act Detroit and funded by the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation to support capacity building and collaboration of nonprofits in Southeast Michigan.
Through that fund, we provided 25 grants up to $50,000 for nonprofit organizations across Southeast Michigan. We also supported 7 collaboratives, recruited a pool of service providers. We also provided support for nonprofit organizations to be able to connect to accounting and HR professionals to undergo financial forecasting and scenario planning for their organizations.
Beyond funding internal staffing at an organization, funders could often benefit from better understanding and listening to the nonprofits and communities they fund. So Co.act worked with foundations to invite the community members, the ones most impacted by foundation funding, into their actual grant-making process.
In the past, Kresge internally has made all the decisions about who would receive grants. And this year, we wanted to start to make a different model.
That's Brian Hogle, program officer with the Kresge Foundation. He's working with us on an initiative called KIPD Plus, an extension of their KIPD grant-making program. It provides grants to support innovative work for communities in Detroit, Hamtramck, and Highland Park to create positive change in their neighborhoods.
And Co.act has some experience with this of actually engaging community members in the process of making decisions about who should receive grant funds. And so we were really excited to partner with Co.act to run the grant-making process and kind of improve it, make it more accessible, which will involve a lot of community members who've been nominated by others around the city. And so Kresge will continue to be a part of the review process, but kind of a small minority of the overall set of reviewers. The vast majority will be folks from the community and then representatives from community organizations, many of whom have been past KIPD grantees and so know the initiative well.
So much of the work that nonprofits do is funded by the generosity of foundations like Kresge, private donors, and the like. But some of the best financial planners would advise you to diversify your income streams. As one co-activist, Richard Grundy, puts it,
because we want to be sustainable, we don't necessarily want to have to lean on foundations and grants to continue to do our work.
We knew that several nonprofits were already bringing in what's called earned revenue, basically money garnered from selling goods or services, as opposed to receiving grants and donations. So we started a pilot program to see how we could support them in accelerating this part of their work.
We started in 2020 with a day-long workshop around earned revenue, which we partnered with the Herb Family Foundation on. It was sold out. We had a waiting list, and folks were contacting me trying to get in. So I often joke that it was the hottest ticket in Detroit that day, right? But what we realized was like, okay, we've got something here that people are really interested in. And so we partnered with Gingras Global. As part of the Activate Fund, we incubated the accelerator, and we worked with 6 organizations to think about existing products or services that they already had, and to work through a curriculum that would help them further and advance those products as an earned revenue stream.
And last, but far from least, we prioritized what's arguably the most vital and most overlooked type of support for nonprofits. Support in the form of wellness.
Sometimes you have to release it. So that gives me an opportunity to release it by attending the meditation series.
Hawa Massaquoi-Carter is Services Navigator at Volunteers of America. She says the meditation sessions specifically have given her more peace and energy.
And I know I have to, take time to, self-care for me. And I think if I don't, I'll be depleted. I won't be good for anybody. So what the meditation does, it allows me to have that moment to say, okay, let me, regroup, recharge, and re-energize myself and say, okay, sometimes we need a self-care day. And I think every Wednesday at 9 to 9:30, that gives me that time to do that. When I attend the meditation series, I can say, oh, okay, this is how I can approach this after I leave.
We're calling this our 2-year impact report. And so, through collaboration with our partners, the participation of co-activists, and the support of our funders, we think it's safe to say that
Co.act Detroit
is making an impact. I mean, as you can see, you don't have to just take our word for it.
By Co.act Detroit giving us a chance, it allowed us to compete with other organizations.
Focus on values around equity, around supporting community and working with community.
They were unabashedly unafraid to go where others felt that was sticky. For them to go bravely into the place that nobody wants to fund and ask funders to fund that, first of all, was very brave, and they were steadfast.
We have the ability to kind of track the impact of our organizations from the implementation of what we learned. So it's been a good experience, a great relationship with Co.act, and one that I can tell is not going to end.
When a place makes you feel that your energies are increased and that you can do anything in there, then that's the kind of environment that's very conducive for change for communities, for the state of Michigan, for the USA, if we allow it to happen.
And the work impacts us, too.
And it's so inspirational.
That's Lauren Boone, Co.act's Activate Fund Program Manager.
I would cry sometimes with the materials that they would send me. They would send back their final deliverables, and it was just so great to see people doing such great work and supporting Detroit and Michigan. And it was just honestly an honor. I was so happy to do it.
Like I said, we've been busy. In 2 years, we've accelerated, incubated, collaborated, and convened. We've shared knowledge, and we've learned so much from the very community we're here to serve. And like Lauren said, we're so happy to do it and to keep doing it. Thank you to our producers, Shannon Kaysen, Aaron Allen, and Vincent Goko. I'm your host, Charnae Sanders. To learn more about Co.act, visit coactdetroit.org.